Well, good evening and welcome into the 2025 debut of Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com. We will be doing this live every Tuesday night throughout the high school football season, 7 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Mountain time on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram account, and X account. Yours truly will be joined by a rotating panel of experts, our best and brightest IdahoSports.com broadcasters, again, every Tuesday night throughout the high school football season. Every Tuesday night, IdahoSports.com. You do not want to miss it. Now, you might be asking yourself, didn't two-a-day start like yesterday? What possibly could we have to talk about already? Because Gem State Game Day is the show where we preview the upcoming slate of games on the high school schedule. Every week, we'll break down the biggest matchups, give you the X's and O's insights, all the key storylines and games we're keeping an eye on. But there are no games because practices officially just started a day ago. This is our season preview. That's right. We're going to take that 50,000-foot view at the high school football landscape from 6A down to 3A. This is your one-stop shop for 11-man football throughout the season here on IdahoSports.com. Enough of me jabbering. My name is Brandon Baney. Really what you came to see tonight were our great panelists and, of course, all of our preseason predictions. Let's bring on the general manager from IdahoSports.com. Coming to us live from the Treasure Valley, it is Paul Kingbsury. What's up, Paul?
Not much, since I thought all day today that it was Monday. And then you posted the promo on Facebook, and I was typing you saying, hey, dude, you got to change that. It says tonight. It's supposed to be Tuesday. And then I went, oh, shoot. It's Tuesday. And so here we are. It should be fun. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I swear yesterday was like June 7th and now it's August 12th. So
crazy times.
The summer goes fast. Hey, you know this voice from the East Idaho Prepcast. They actually launched the first new Prepcast of the 2025-26 school year 2 weeks ago. They talked to Hillcrest head coach Brennan Mossholder, so he'll have some good insights there. It is Sean Kane from the East Idaho Prepcast coming to us live from Pocatello.
Yeah,
what's going on in Pokey?
I mean, I really don't want to hear about what day it is. I'm the only one that actually has to go back to work soon, so that's where I'm going to start with this whole thing. Okay, guys.
Yeah, Brandon and I are basically retired, is what you're saying. We
yeah. Yeah. I got to go back to work. And just for everyone out there to know, I haven't combed my hair in like 3 months, but I did it just tonight for these guys. And then, as you can see, they did not. But yeah, a lot of exciting things here in East Idaho. It should be really fun football season. It'll just be really interesting to see how everyone comes back and what goes on. But as we know, a lot of the teams in East Idaho kind of reign supreme in some of the divisions. So who can come back and, fill the shoes, or who wants to tie them up and go against them? It's going to be fun.
Yeah, as we mentioned, this is just for 11-man football. You might be wondering, hey, 8-man football exists too. Well, we have the Idaho 8-man Prepcast each and every week on IdahoSports.com, where we will talk exclusively about the 8-man game. And Sean, you mentioned it. Let's see, last year's champions, 6A Rigby, 5A Hillcrest, 4A Sugar Salem, 3A Westside. That is a clean sweep for East Idaho, 4 for 4.
Yeah, I mean, these are teams that they do the same thing, but they do it so well that even all us experts probably can't even fathom how well they do it. And a lot of these teams come back with a lot of key players. Some don't, but just they come back with most of their head coaches, which is something I'm sure we're going to tap on later. But just it's something I've been thinking about is, does it matter if you have longevity in a head coach, or is having a new head coach not a big deal? It's kind of a new landscape of thing, because you always talk about they've been here forever. That's not the case anymore. Now it's like there's someone new. Does it? How much difference does it make, or does it? It'll be interesting. We'll be able to see that happen as the season goes on.
Yeah, should be interesting for sure. Comments starting to pour in, and we would invite you, as you're watching this live tonight, no matter where you're watching from, if you've got a comment, you want to be part of the conversation, this is why we do it for you, the fans. Throw it in the comments. We'll throw it up on the screen. Here's our good friend Sam Buffington from North Idaho reposting the stream for us on X. Thank you, Sam. Ryan Skaggs, our great North Idaho broadcaster as well, are the experts in the room with us now. Experts.
He's here.
Yeah. And then he does say, good to see you guys, excited for a new year. Well, speaking of North Idaho never gets its respect, so we had to make this guy wait a little extra longer to make his Gem State Game Day debut. From District 2 up in North Idaho, it is Hayden Uhlencott. What's going on, Hayden?
Not a lot. Sean brought up the point that, Southern Idaho wins everything, and he's kind of got a point. I mean, you start looking through the state tournament brackets. It's kind of hard to brag for North Idaho, but we're going to try our best this year to hopefully turn the tide.
That's right. We're getting more chatter in the comments here from some of our IdahoSports.com broadcasters. Here's Scott Burton from the Magic Valley Prepcast. Not all the experts are on the show tonight. Ryan and I aren't there. Just a little behind the scenes here at IdahoSports.com. I did email a Google document to every broadcaster asking them to sign up for which episodes they'd like to be a part of throughout the season. Sean and Hayden were the two that signed up for this one. So, Scott,
I signed up about 10 minutes ago. So
yeah,
I didn't want Sean to be alone.
That doesn't matter when.
Scott and Ryan don't know how to use the internet, apparently. But
that's right. Here's Leif Morrison, our good friend Leif. It's finally football season. Let's go. And of course, our good friend Max Oswald from the Bonner County Daily Bee and the Bonners Ferry Herald just picked up that gig again. Go Sandpoint Bulldogs, Priest River Spartans, Clark Fork Wampus Cats, and 8-man football. Look out for Priest River this year. Yes, we'll get to that momentarily. But guys, let's start the discussion with the Behemoths, the 6A football landscape. As a refresher on how things went down last year, well, Rigby ended up winning the title over Eagle. 4 really good semifinals where Rigby took out Rocky Mountain, Eagle took out Coeur d'Alene. It was a really good Final Four, and then a somewhat anticlimactic championship. But again, here it is. Rigby was your champ, Eagle the runner-up, Coeur d'Alene and Rocky Mountain the 2 semifinalists. You can see the other playoff teams on the left side of your screen there. CUNA made a nice run to the quarterfinals last year. I don't think too many people had that pegged when the season started. Madison was a much better team than people thought coming in last year. They made a nice run. Post Falls finally got over the hump after losing in the first round of the playoffs so many years. They beat Bora and even Capital, despite finishing in the bottom half of their division, got hot at the right time, got a nice playoff win, and then in week 10 against another SIC team, and then they got into the playoffs as kind of the plucky upstart. So, Paul, my question to you is, of those teams on the left side of the screen, which team do you think could finish a step higher than they did last year? So, like, Rigby can't be the answer because you can't be higher than the champion. But all the other teams, who do you think could place one notch higher?
Those middle 4, the CUNA, Madison, Middleton, Post Falls, and I'm going to say Middleton. Any of them, Madison, they get Pancari as a head coach. That's going to help right off the bat. But Middleton, I think, has the pieces. They chose to play up 6A. I think it's going to pay off this year. I think they could move on a little bit further than they did last year. They lost to Highland, and Highland is going to be a lot better team this year if you're looking at the other. So Middleton could go, but I guess if you're looking at who I think is going to go way further, it's going to be Highland. But going up a step further, probably Middleton.
Okay, Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. I like Middleton getting Jake Perez back after missing his, most of the season with a leg injury. He's a dynamic running back. He's going to be really good. It's hard for me to root for an East team like that, but I like Middleton. I think Highland rebounds, a little bit, and Madison coaching change will be interesting, but they have good offense and defensive line. But I mean, really, I think it's going to be tough. Rigby brings back Flowers and Amani Morel. That's a lot. It's a lot to do, and it'll be really interesting. And you got a Coeur d'Alene team, which almost like Coeur d'Alene being in the semis and not making to the championship is almost like a kind of like, wow, they didn't make it to the championship. So it'll be really interesting to see how they bounce back too as well.
Hayden, what do you got?
Yeah, I think you got to go with Coeur d'Alene. You have a quarterback that's been in the system for a couple years. You have Sean Amos, who's coming back for his bazillionth year. I think that's a team that is ready to take the next step at this point. You have this group, and you feel like this is the year that you could finish the deal. And I think they have a really good opportunity to do it.
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene, Sean Amos in his 28th season as the head coach of the Vikings, the longest tenured head coach in one spot in the state of Idaho, which is incredible. Caden Simmons threw for over 2,000 yards last season. I am shocked nobody took Timberline. I'll do it. The Timberline Wolves have 4 Division I commits, already signed commits on their team. Jack Brandt, the quarterback, going to UC Davis. His teammate, Sam Hayner, on the defensive line, also going to UC Davis. His top wide receiver, Hudson Lewis, he's going to Washington State. And then the left tackle, Andrew Price, committed to the University of Hawaii. So I'll go Timberline. I think Timberline's a team that is definitely on the rise. We do have a few more comments coming in here. Here's Wade Waldron. He says Rigby will be in the mix again for sure. Lots of really good teams in our 6A class. No shoo-ins. Big question for Rigby will be the O-line. They graduated 6 of their top 7 O-linemen, and their success will hinge a lot on the new group coming in. Yeah, Rigby is going to be an interesting team. They kind of get the de facto nod, not just here statewide, but also in the High Country Conference, guys. We love to, in the preseason, poll every coach in every conference and ask them to kind of just predict how they think their respective conference or league race will shake out. We compile the votes and we present them. We're going to be publishing these tomorrow on IdahoSports.com, but a little treat for those of you that decided to come live tonight. You will be the first people to see these preseason coaches polls. So a little motivation here to join the show live. Here are our official preseason coaches polls in 6A this year. Coeur d'Alene, the favorite up north. Rigby, the favorite in the east. And then there are 2 divisions, remember, in the Southern Idaho Conference of District 3. This is split up. They did this like 4 or 5 years ago based upon like who was competitive at the time. And at the time, it was really to separate Rocky Mountain and Mountain View. Those 2 have slipped just slightly as other teams have risen, but the balance is still pretty striking. Rocky Mountain and Eagle, the 2 favorites there in the Southern Idaho Conference. Paul, what do you think of these preseason coaches polls? What did the coaches get right? What did they get wrong?
They look pretty good to me, honestly. That River Division looks pretty straight up. I could see maybe swapping out Waihe, bumping Cuna up a couple. On the other side, Centennial at number 6. They're my dark horse to win it all with Steve Sosnowski back at the helm there at Centennial. He's going to bring him into a championship this year.
Okay, that is a strong take for a team that went winless last year and hasn't won.
I like Soz. Soz is a good guy. I've known him a long time.
He did just get inducted into the IHSAA Hall of Fame last weekend. So, yeah, he came out of retirement to take the Centennial job. Sean, what do you think about these preseason polls? What stands out to you?
Oh man, like you said, I could see Timberline overtaking that one spot in Foothills Division. Also, I think a team that doesn't get a lot of reps or like a lot of talk is Boise. Boise kind of irrelevant for a long time, and they've done really, really well. I think that's a good spot for them. And then obviously, I still think the High Country Conference, right, 5 and 6. It's Rigby's to lose, but Madison and Highland and Thunder Ridge, on any given night, one of those games could get a little chippy and see what happens. But for the most part, if we just look at what's happened, I like what I see here on the slide until we actually play.
That's right. Pretty good on paper fodder for sure. You mentioned Boise, Sean. The Brave have a pretty good QB receiver combo in Trevor Schoolfield and Eli Rich. They very famously finished 6th in that River Division last year. The 2 6th-place teams are automatically removed from postseason consideration. The 2 6th-place teams in that District 3 play each other. And Boise got squeezed out for the 5th and final spot from the River Division by Waihe. You'll remember Boise then filed a petition to try and get Waihe's win over them earlier in the season forfeited due to an ineligible player. It was ruled that, yes, Waihe needed to forfeit. Boise, for a moment, thought they had a chance at the playoffs. Then the state board came in and overruled, and so it was just a roller coaster of emotions for Waihe and Boise last year. Ultimately, neither one made the playoffs, so it didn't really matter too much there, but just kind of an interesting dichotomy. Here's Tom Loveland in the chat, guys. The high country is tough. Yeah, Rigby, Madison, Highland, that top three. Thunder Ridge, I'd be interested to see if you put Thunder Ridge in North Idaho where they would finish. I could see them taking second potentially. Thunder Ridge has got a good program as well. Hayden, what stands out to you from these preseason polls?
Yeah, it's tough when you're one of the lower teams in the Southern Conference because you have such powerhouses like Rigby. But it does seem like, I'm not saying we're like the coaches, but it looks like a lot of our predictions are landing up where the coaches think as well. The other thing that I look at is, Coach Pancari going back to Madison. I'm excited to see, him heading back down south at least to see how he works out there. I know Lewiston didn't turn out to be the greatest tenure, but I think in Madison, I think it'll work out really well for him.
Yeah, Matt Pancari, after 7 years at Lewiston, going back home to where he grew up in Rexburg, taking the Madison job. Chandler Rhodes, the previous coach, moving on up. He got promoted to a high school principal position. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a good fit. Pancari basically going to Madison where they've got tons of resources developed into that football program for sure. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see. We've got a Priest River Spartan fan in the house, Brandon Goins, saying Max Oswald, yes, sir. Keep an eye out for Priest River. We'll get to our 3A discussion here momentarily. And so that's what's going on at the 6A level this season. It'll be very interesting to see how everything shakes out. Let's go back to this graphic here. You see the teams on the right side of your screen, the teams that missed the playoffs last year. I mentioned Boise and Hawaii. After all of that legal battles, neither one of them made the playoffs. So it was ultimately much ado about nothing. But Paul, is there a team from that list on the right that you think could make the playoffs this year?
Besides Centennial?
Right. I guess you could go with Centennial.
No. Boise, I think they've got a shot there. There's two at large spots there in the 6As. I think they've got as good or better shot as anybody in that list to get it.
Sean, what do you think?
Oh man, I would love to go Thunder Ridge Titans. I just know that division it's just so hard, right? I just have to give them a shout out. I think that's a good team that, just because, you have this previous state champion, you have Highland, who's won a bazillion state champions, and now you've got this growing Madison team. So I have to say Thunder Ridge Titans. I would love to get one more spot or something in there to get them in there, but probably won't happen. But I'm gonna have to agree with Paul, and Boise's kind of a team that I would have my eye on.
Hayden?
Yeah, I hate to be a homer and keep going up north, and Lake City has a tough road ahead, but you only have 3 teams in your conference. You only have 2 big games you have to win. You look at some of the other teams down south, to win multiple games to even have a shot to make the tournament. So if you can just keep it close with Coeur d'Alene and you can upset Post Falls, then you're in. And so I think that has to be the mentality for Lake City. And, it's on the table.
Yeah, Lake City hosted Highland last year for a Saturday game, lost a very low-scoring game, and that was the difference between 5-4 versus 4-5. Would that have gotten Lake City to the dance? Possibly. They play Highland again this year on a Saturday, this time in Pocatello, so that's going to be a huge game because typically outside of their league and maybe the one-off with Highland, they're playing Washington School, so it's hard to get a gauge on them. I'll go with Mountain View. The Mavericks are a team that bring back their quarterback, Hank Nelson, and then Valentin Ricks Gomez at running back as well. Mountain View just kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit last year. I think Mountain View is a team that could definitely qualify for the playoffs here in 2025. Ryan Skaggs talking about the teams up north here. Caden Simmons back for what feels like his 7th COVID year at Coeur d'Alene because he's been the starter since he was an underclassman. Yes, he has been imprinted on the program basically since he first arrived. It is his senior season. QB experience is going to be huge in the classification. Those top 4 teams from last year, 3 of the 4 returned their starting quarterback, Jake Flowers at Rigby, Austin Ramsey at Eagle, and Simmons at Coeur d'Alene. Rocky Mountain is the team that has to figure out the quarterback position. And then Ryan says Lake City could be sneaky with the talent on the O-line and the front 7 on D, might sneak their way into a playoff berth. Coach Byron Hout might have made me a believer. over the summer. And Byron had, of course, one of the all-time great players in Idaho and really imprinting his status as a coach with Lake City as well. All right.
So why isn't Skaggs on here again? He's just at home commenting. He could have just been on the show.
He didn't sign up on the sheet.
Than me.
Nobody.
Don't read his things anymore.
Yeah, he's done. He's maxed out.
Yep. Sorry, you've been banished, Skaggs. On that note, let's switch to 5A football. Again, as a refresher, what happened last year at the Class 5A classification? Well, it was an all District 6 championship, Skyline versus Hillcrest. Skyline actually won the regular season matchup. Hillcrest got revenge in the title game, though, and won by multiple scores. So Hillcrest is your champ. Skyline, the runner-up last year. And then he had two champions from the north and the Magic Valley, Minico and Lakeland, make deep semifinal runs there as well. Sean, we'll start with you first here for 5A football. Those teams on the left, which team do you think is poised for a higher jump forward this year?
Oh, man. There's a couple teams that jump out at me right away. I think a Blackfoot is a team you're going to have to watch out for. They're going to be pretty solid. And then, District 6 was a lot of those teams up and down that left side column. You've got Bonneville's got a new head coach as well. They're going to be strong. You have a lot of parity. I think Hillcrest and Skyline are still going to be the top kind of dogs coming into this. You have two really good teams. And then, there's a team that, I'm sure Paul would love to talk about, and that's Bishop Kelly. They bring back, a 3-year starter as their quarterback. So they're, Bishop Kelly's picks up where they're at too. But I think you've got a lot of parity and since we won't let Ryan talk, but Lakeland Hawks, they were a solid team last year too. And they were, a couple different things happened. They could be in that championship game. So I think in 5A, you've got a lot of parity. But I kind of like to see where Blackfoot ends up at the end of the day.
Okay. Lakeland does have to replace 1,000-yard rusher Lovey Wheel. Blackfoot may have the best offensive tackle in the state, Kian Monahan. He's a really fun, or at least at the 5A level, he's a really fun player to watch there as well. Skaggs says, I'm working very late. Sam, I think, nailed it. Skaggs has stage fright. So on that note, Hayden, give me one of these 5A teams that made the playoffs last year that you think could go a little deeper into the playoffs this year.
Yep, and I think that one team's got to be Lewiston. I'm super excited to see Zane Hobart taking that jump from 8-man to 11, and I think it's going to translate. I think he's pumped to be back at his alma mater, and I really believe Lewiston has the athletes in place to make that jump and, put an imprint back on 5A.
It is kind of a blank canvas. They do have some players return. Parker Bagley, the defensive end, was an impact player last year, but it is a fairly new cast of characters at Lewiston this year for sure. And everyone's saying, Zane Hobart, an 8-man coach. How's he going to do it 11-man? I think people forget Zane played 11-man football his whole career. He played for Lewiston. Like, this is not new to him. So it's going to be interesting for sure. Paul, which team? And so Lewiston made the playoffs last year, did not get a win. They went to Twin Falls and lost. So Hayden thinks they could do quarterfinals or better. Paul, what do you think?
I looked at every, 6A down through 3A, and everybody but 6A, I'm looking at the quarterfinals being really similar this year to what they were last year. And in the 5As, I can see Lakeland getting bumped just because they did lose Wheel. They lost Benson at quarterback. But I'm really curious to see, like I think Sean said, Blackfoot, right? What are they going to look like? I like Lewiston. I like Zane Hobart. I think they're a year or two away from really making a lot of noise up there. But as far as moving up, I really want to see what Blackfoot can do. And of course, BK came in at number 4 last year. And they got beat by Minico. Well, Minico is replacing Preston Sonner Cranny, the fastest kid in the world. I mean, the kid was fast, and so they have to replace him somehow. They got brought back a huge cast. Can Minico do it? Sure. But I think that there's going to be a replacement, and I'm going to say maybe BK or Blackfoot swaps out for Lakeland in the semis.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Or in the quarters.
Right. Yeah, talking about Minico, their head coach Sherm Blaser told us basically we lost 16 starters on offense and defense, so we've got guys that need to learn and learn quick. And so we'll see if Minico can plug and play some of the pieces there. I think Twin Falls is going to be pretty good again this year. Bishop Kelly, Sean noted, brings back Ben Avella at quarterback. He's been starting since his sophomore year. The team I really like, guys, it's kind of sneaky, Nampa. Give me Nampa High with Ty Thomas, great Montana standout in high school and for the University of Montana. My Grizzly pride.
Wow.
Ty Thomas in his second year as the head coach at Nampa High. They've got some good players. Riker Good is a fantastic running back. This linebacker, I'm telling you, he's going to blow up this year. Hugo Apamasaga. He is going to be an impact player in the Southern Idaho Conference. They've got some good receivers, Cortez Hernandez. I think Nampa is a team that if they got to the second weekend of the playoffs, wouldn't surprise me whatsoever.
It could be a fifth grade grid kid team out of Firth. And if there was a Montana coach, Brandon would be saying, I think they're going to hit the 5A tournament pretty well here this year.
Yes, Skaggs in all caps here in the chat. Homer, for sure. Okay, enough about what we think. What do the coaches think? Here are our 5A preseason coaches polls. Lewiston gets the nod in the Inland Empire League. District 1-2, Lakeland and Sandpoint tied for second. Basically, all of the coaches voted an entirely different way. It was very interesting to see that one play out. The other favorites, Bishop Kelly from District 3, Twin Falls, edges out Minico by a single point for District 4. Pocatello and Preston tie for the number 1 spot in District 5. And then Hillcrest, the favorite, over in District 6. But Blackfoot and Skyline tie for second. Sean, what jumps out to you from this preseason data from the coaches?
I mean, I have to go to the high conference, right? Skyline not being ranked number 1 is probably got to be the first time in a very long time. But, Skyline's got Zane Crockett, man, and he is a game changer. So,
are you going to rank them ahead of Hillcrest?
I mean, I think that it's pretty comparable. Hillcrest brings back a lot of players. They have the numbers, as we talked to the coach earlier this summer. But Blackfoot's the team. Like, they're building momentum. We got to see what they can come and do. So, yeah, District 6 always a battle, right? And these teams, Shelley and Idaho Falls can come out of nowhere and win a game too, and mess up those standings pretty quickly. So definitely surprising to see Hillcrest not ranked where it is. I mean, it's hard not to rank Hillcrest number 1 as they're the defending champions. But and then on the other side of things, in District 3, if you look at Valley View, they kind of were sneaky last year. Not a lot of talk about them, and they got into the playoffs. So that's a team too I'd keep an eye out on.
Yeah, Valley View's got a great running back, Onyx Carson. He's actually the top returning rusher in 11-man football across the entire state of Idaho. Rushed for, off the top of my head, like 1,500 yards or something like that last year. It was incredible for sure. Shea McClellan, the coach there at Valley View, doing nice things. Hillcrest brings back a lot. Tyson Sweetwood at quarterback, the player of the year. Some pretty good offensive linemen, some pretty good defensive backs. Brandon in the chat says Skyline lost a lot. That's why the Grizzlies have dropped to a tie for second. They do bring back Zion Crockett, like you said, Sean. He can play in the slot. He can play at running back. I believe Taylor is still there at cornerback as well for Skyline, of course. First name Taylor, last name Taylor. One of my favorites, certainly. It's going to be interesting for sure. Hayden, what do you think about this preseason coaches poll data?
Yeah, the Inland Empire League. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that I mean, I have a lot of faith in Lewiston, but I was kind of shocked that the coaches feel the same way. I'd almost have everyone be tied in first because I couldn't even guess who's going to win. Ryan Knowles does a great job at Sandpoint. I think he had a young group last year. I think this year could be a lot different. And then the other team that I want to point out, and they probably didn't even expect a shout out this year, is Caldwell. I know they're independent, and I know Paul's looking at me like I'm crazy, but that's a team that you have to move in the right direction at some point, and you have to start moving up, and maybe this is the first year and a stepping stone in the right direction.
It is the third year that Caldwell is electing to play an independent schedule. They're automatically not going to qualify for the playoffs or anything like that. They're not even really playing their SIC parts. It's a lot of like 4A teams on the schedule, but yeah, I mean, that's the only way you can really build is to try, and Boise did this a couple of years ago. They went independent, and now you see they're Sean's favorite to make the playoffs this year. So Ryan says the IEL is wide open this year. Zane is getting athletes out and has built one of the better coaching staffs in any classification. You know, the X's and O's are nice, but sometimes in high school football, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes too, a little bit. So we'll see. I'm intrigued to see how that shakes out. Paul, what do you think about these preseason coaches polls?
I like them. The only thing I would switch is swap Minico for Twin Falls. Everything else looks pretty good.
Interesting. All right. Twin Falls brings back a lot from last year. Ty Hess at quarterback. They did lose a pretty good receiver who transferred to Utah, Jace Evans. But Twin Minico, last game of the season again this year, probably will be for the Great Basin Conference title and a first round bye in the playoffs. Again, let's bring up the list of teams that were in the playoffs versus teams that were not in the playoffs. That's 4A. How about 5A?
There we go.
This is the largest classification in terms of teams. So you've got more choices on the board here. There's also more spots. 16 teams make it to the playoffs. So you can miss the playoffs one year, qualify pretty easily the next year. Sean, give me one team on that list from the right that you think could make the playoffs this year.
Oh, man. I feel like all the teams that make it is enough, but that's another discussion. How about let's go Columbia Wildcats.
Okay, I love it. They're coached by another Montana guy, Charlie Dotson, former Kalispell Flathead assistant coach. And they do have one of the best two-way players that not a lot of people talk about, Brenton Tuason. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but it's Brenton Tuason. He's an offensive lineman and a linebacker. And he's started since day one his freshman season. He's now a junior. He's a guy that's turning a lot of heads for Columbia, really a building block on both sides of the ball. Sean, I'm surprised he didn't go with your Century Diamondbacks. You teach at Century. Brandon in the chat says, I think Century is going to be much improved.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a lot better too, and I agree with that too. I would have said Preston would have been the number one easily, but they had a coaching change, their quarterback, different things. So Preston's kind of a huge question mark to me. I think Pocatello, they lose Hunter May, they lose some big time players. Who's going to fill in those roles? So that District 5, 3 teams, Century, Pocatello, Preston. It's hard to get a gear on it now. What's going to happen? So I think Ryan Fleshman with Century and Diamondbacks are going to come back and I think they'll get some wins this year that people might be surprised about.
Yeah, they've been young the last couple of years. Maybe that maturity will finally start to develop. I like Pocatello still in District 5. Tavin Williams is back. Hunter Cordell. They've got some pieces in place. I think Pocatello would be my favorite there. Hayden, a team that missed the playoffs last year that you think could get in this year.
Yeah, Sean kind of took my pick. I was kind of thinking Century. You go winless last year. You have to have some sort of improvement, but also in 5A, there's a lot of teams that make it already. I mean, you gotta try to fit your way in somehow, and it's kind of a tough bid.
Yeah. Did you have a pulse? Did you win 3 games? There's a chance you're going to be fighting for that 15, 16 seed. And again, that's not the team's fault. That's the bracket that's set up. I think it's a little too large myself. Paul, give me one of those teams on the right that you think could make the playoffs after missing out last year.
I went to the Weird Al concert last Saturday with our broadcaster, Clay Hatfield, who teaches at Ridgeview. And he said that there is a lot of excitement with the new head coach, Gary Thorson, that there's a lot of excitement within the program that hasn't been there for a while. So I'm going to say Ridgeview. I'm going to say the Warhawks could be the team that might sneak in.
Yeah, Gary Thorson comes over from Oregon. He has a history of rebuilding programs in Oregon that have been down on their luck and turning them into contenders. And so very interested to see what he does there at Ridgeview. Guys, I'll go with on the list here on the right side. Yeah, this is a tough one for sure. Give me, you know what? Give me the Canyon Ridge Riverhawks. I'll tell you what, coaches in the Great Basin are buzzing about the job that Juan Alvarado has done in building up what's been a pretty down program over the years. Had them feisty and competitive last year. This is the team that people have pegged to finish third behind Twin Falls and Minico, depending what order you want to rank them. So give me Canyon Ridge as a team that I think could sneak in there from the Great Basin Conference as well. Brandon says he was at Weird Al too, Paul. Great show. So, all right.
It was a good show.
I guess we all missed out. So,
yes,
okay. Nobody misses out more than Homedale, it seems like, in 4A football because, yeah, that's a good transition there, right? Ooh.
Not your best, but it'll do for the first show of the year.
I mean, yeah, we're still in 2-a-day mode. You know, I'm knocking off the preseason rust here. In fact, my backup's ready to come in, so I'll just head to the bench. This is the 4A football preview now. And, hey, guess what, guys? Sugar Salem won again 5 times in 6 years. They had, and the one time they lost was by 2 points to Weiser in overtime. So could be 6 in a row. Just truly remarkable. Homedale so often the runner-up to Sugar. I can't even count how many times it's happened over the years. Homedale takes second. Kimberly and Weiser both in the semifinals a year ago as well. Hayden, that list of playoff teams on the left side there from 4A, who do you think could take a next step here in 2025?
You know, I think the easy answer is any team that's coached by Tom Harrison. I think that's just the easy pick. And so I'm going to settle with Weiser.
Okay. I like it. Weiser lost quite a bit to graduation, but their JV program has pretty consistently been excellent. Tom Harrison likes to plug and play and reload. And, you know, that top 3 with Fruitland, Homedale, Weiser, no matter what order it's in, it wouldn't surprise me if those 3 were all like in the semifinals, depending on how the bracketing works out and everything. That's how good those 3 teams truly are this year. Paul, give me a team that you think could advance a little further in the playoffs this year than they did last year.
You know, I'm going to go the SRV as well and go Fruitland. You know, they got Vidlac back. That's big when you get your quarterback back, especially in that conference. It's tough. I mean, that battle between Fruitland and Weiser is going to be tough. Fruitland, Homedale, Weiser, all those matchups are just going to be absolutely brutal this year. But I can see Fruitland improving over what they did last year for sure.
And Fruitland has the #1 recruit in the state of Idaho, offensive tackle Kelvin Obot, who has signed with the University of Utah in the Big 12. So, yeah, they definitely got some good pieces there. Sean, what's a playoff team from 4A last year that you think could go a little further this year?
Give me the Snake River Panthers, man. They had so many injuries and different things last year, but still competed hard as any team I saw all year. I was really impressed with their size and athleticism. And, you know, looking at their schedule, right, their first 2 games are Homedale and Sugar Salem. They play Homedale and then Sugar Salem. So, like, if they get a win out of one of those 2 games to start their season, watch out for the Panthers. And then they go on to play Kimberly, which is no slouch either. So very tough schedule for Snake River Panthers. But if they can come out with a sneaky win early, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Okay, we have a residual 5A comment here from Brody. He thinks Mountain Home will be scary this year. We'll see. Mountain Home missed out on the playoffs last year. Ben Rayfield doing good things there in his 3rd season as the Mountain Home coach, certainly. In the chat here, Brandon says, watch out for American Falls. Yvonne Cortez says Fruitland. Ryan Skaggs says Fruitland, American Falls, and Buell. All 3 could be dangerous. All were in the quarterfinals last year. I'm going to go with the team that American Falls actually beat in the opening round of the playoffs. It was their first playoff win since 1995 last year. American Falls went to Moscow and knocked the Bears out on their home field in the opening round of the playoffs. Moscow was they were running on fumes by the end of the season. They had a lot of guys that were injured. They weren't quite the same team when the playoffs rolled around, but they returned some really good offensive and defensive linemen like Finney Needham and Paul Dixon. They bring back the MVP of the league as a sophomore, Keaton Fry. He kind of plays all over, running back, DB, wide receiver. Mason Helbling started as a freshman at wide receiver last year. They do have to replace the quarterback, Noah Velasco, but I think Moscow is a team that They won the Intermountain League last year, upset right away at home. Veteran coach and Rob Bafis. I don't think Moscow gets knocked out in the first round again. So I'm going to go with Moscow there. Let's take a look at what the coaches thought here. Our 4A preseason coaches polls. I mentioned in Moscow, the favorite in that Intermountain League. Fruitland gets the nod, and the Snake River Valley, Homedale, and Weiser appropriately tied for second. Weiser beat Homedale in the regular season last year to win the SRV regular season crown. Homedale got revenge in the state semifinals. Down in District 4 in the red font, the SCIC, Sawtooth Central Idaho Conference, Kimberly, the overwhelming favorite there. And then in East Idaho, American Falls and Sugar Salem, respectively, the favorites in those two districts. Let's go to Hayden first here. Hayden, what jumps out to you from this preseason data?
Well, I kind of agree with you in Moscow. I think Moscow rightfully should be there. It's going to be very interesting to see who their quarterback's going to be. But you're right. Keaton Fry, when he gets back, I know he had an injury. See how he recovers because he is a heck of an athlete. And then, I'm excited about McCall. McCall lost a lot, but, they have a new coach in. And, one of these days they need to get further up into the conference of the Snake River Valley Conference. And I think now might be an opportunity for him. It's a tough conference to be in and probably the hardest one to be a part of.
Yeah, they got a little 2-for-1 deal. BJ Sorensen, their head coach, got promoted to principal at the high school there. He's still on staff as an assistant coach, but the new head coach is David Joyce from Teton. Teton, shockingly, decided not to renew his contract despite more than 100 students, parents voicing their support for him. So Teton's loss, I guess, is McCall Donnelly's gain. And not only do you get head coach David Joyce, you get his son, senior Joker Joyce, an all-state wide receiver and defensive back. So a little 2-for-1 combo package there for the Vandals. But they already had good players coming back like Colt Value, Gunnar Newman, etc. So, yeah, I like that McCall Donnelly. I think they could still finish fourth in the SRV and still be a quarterfinal team. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So, Paul, what do you think of this preseason coaches polls?
I like it. I think it's pretty accurate up and down, really. I mean, Kimberly bringing a lot back, plus they have Wyatt Helm on the coaching staff. I mean, he's an Idaho sports broadcaster guy during basketball, so that helps, obviously. Now, but down the rest, it's the SCIC, it's Kimberly. I don't think there's anybody that's going to compete. Fruitland, number one, I think they're going to be better. I'm not sure they're going to be number one. That top three is tough. So if they do come out on top, good for them. Absolutely. And the others, yeah, I think the others are pretty good up and down.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised Gooding got the nod at number 2. They really must, I think John Helmendollar coming over from Wendell, taking the Gooding job. And they've kind of been a program that's been building up. But, to me, Buell, they were second last year. I've learned you don't bet against Buell. We very famously picked Buell in our pick 6 last year against Weiser. All of us picked Weiser to win. Buell came out and won the game. And then their coach and 4 of their standout players roasted me the following week on Gem State Game Day. And so I've learned you never bet against Buell. Sean, what do you think of these preseason coaches polls?
If you look at Snake River Valley Conference, it's probably been a long time since Fruitland's kind of got that nod. I think, Weiser and Homedale, it's hard to go away from Tom Harris and Weiser. You just got a lot of good teams there. So I think that's going to be a tough battle. And I don't know why I didn't bring this up earlier, but yesterday I was at the actual Bear Lake. I don't know if you Northerners have ever been down south here in Idaho, but Bear Lake is phenomenal. Like it was amazing. And Bear Lake is always a school that is just competitive and everything. And they kind of had a little bit of a down year last year. So seeing them at 2 is in the coaches poll is very intriguing to me. And I like what they can do there. So, but yeah, actually don't go to Bear Lake. It's really bad. I don't want any more people there. It was, but man, it was great yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. I will give a shout out to Bear Lake, second-year head coach Houston Reynolds, doing a good job as the Bears. His first season last year, Bear Lake moved up from 3A to 4A because of a larger enrollment. And so Houston Reynolds, he knows how to deliver under pressure. He's a doctor in town there in Montpelier. So he knows how to perform under pressure, not just in the medical room, but also on the football field, certainly. And so that's our preseason coaches polls. I asked everybody their opinion, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I just kind of lost track of the order there. We've got comments coming in. Here is a residual 5A comment. Go Lakeland. Yes. Hawks should be really interesting this year. Of course, they're in the same school district as Timberlake. Timberlake was picked second. Bonners Ferry picked third up there in the Intermountain League. Max Oswald says Bonners Ferry will have a great ground game. Wouldn't be surprised to see them make some noise. Yeah, I think that race behind Moscow between Timberlake and Bonners Ferry will be very interesting. Timberlake did win that matchup last year. Okay, back to our list of teams that made the playoffs last year and teams that didn't in 4A. You see the Bear Lake Bears there at the top of the list. Hayden, give me one 4A team that missed the playoffs last year that you think will get in this year.
I'm going to hop on the back of Max Oswald, and I'm going to say Bonners Ferry. Yeah, I think that it's been, I don't know how many years since they've beaten Timberlake. But Timberlake lost a lot of good players last year. And could this be the year they take a step back? I don't know. Kelly Amos does a really good job there, but it's kind of like the same predicament you have up in 5A or up in 5A and 6A really is you only have 3 teams. So if you can beat 2 of them, if you can beat both of them, you're in. So I think Bonners Ferry could have a big improvement.
It's going to be interesting to see for sure. Here is Brandon in the chat. He says, I'm going to be rooting for Homedale because my guy Holtree really needs to win the big one. Yeah, I mean, they're like 72-7 or something like over the last 8 years. It's just incredible. Those 7 losses, I think, have all been at the hands of Sugar Salem. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's legit something like that for sure. Okay, so Hayden likes the Bonners Ferry Badgers. Paul, what do you think? A team that missed the playoffs last year that could get back in?
I think I have to go with Bonners Ferry as well. I mean, this is just it's a stacked classification, and the goods are going to stay good, and the mids might move around, the bottoms not so much. And so, looking at that, if I have to pick somebody, Bonners Ferry and Bear Lake at a close second, I guess, but probably the Badgers.
Sean,
man, I talked about Bear Lake earlier. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go South Fremont, Cougars, Chad Hill at the helm. I mean, they're in the tough division. Teton, what's Teton going to be like this year? Maybe South Fremont sneaks in somehow, off these changes. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to lean the opposite way. You guys have all said Bonners Ferry. I'll go Timberlake. I think Timberlake's got some good pieces coming back. They play Sugar Salem in Anaconda, Montana to start off the season. Little neutral site game, and that can only help their Max Preps ranking. Sugar's probably going to win that game. Probably
last year
by a couple of scores. Yeah, last year it didn't help him. That's a good point, Hayden. But I am a believer in Timberlake this year. Give me the Tigers. That's what I'm going to go with there. So, all right, that is our 4A preview. Guys, one classification to go. Hey, I was singing the praises of Juan Alvarado earlier, the great head coach at Canyon Ridge. He is watching live tonight. He says, sorry, I'm late. Someone kicked the football and hit our NFHS camera.
It happens. It happens.
Does it happen?
It's good.
I think Scott Burton was out there practicing field goals.
It's good.
Yeah.
It happens sometimes for sure. Well, Juan, you'll have to go back to the 5A section where I said Canyon Ridge was going to be the team that makes the playoffs this year that missed out a year ago. But the 3A landscape, Sean, should we just turn it over to you? If we look here, the Final Four last year was all East Idaho, Westside, Declo, Aberdeen, Firth, 3 teams from the Southeast Idaho Conference, Firth from the Nuclear Conference. Is it going to be a sweep for East Idaho again this year, or do you see one of these other quarterfinal teams maybe breaking through, or even one of the playoff teams like a Malad or Priest
Ryrie.
River or somebody? Yeah, Ryrie. What do you think?
Ryrie comes, Ryrie is going to bring back some good pieces. I mean, you got to talk about, bringing Declo into this conference and how that really, I think made everyone better. It helped Aberdeen. It helped Declo, and Westside, and Firth is always a team that you have to watch out for. But I got an eye on Ryrie, North Fremont, always tough. You've got the Malad Dragons that they were dominant for a while, and now they're kind of coming back. You've just got a lot of interesting characters. But I'm gonna just tell you, I mean, Westside's still running the wing tee and throwing 50-yard touchdown passes until someone figures out how to beat that. It's gonna be tough. Man,
all three of those teams beat each other last year. There was a 3-way tie for the Southeast Idaho Conference title. They all went 4-1. All of the games were incredibly low scoring, where Aberdeen beat Declo 8-0, and then Declo beat Westside 6-0, and then Westside beat Aberdeen 14-12. I mean, geez, we're talking like Papa Bear George Hallis 1920 Chicago Bears football there. I mean, low scoring, defensive, grinded out type of games. Westside ultimately got the last laugh. They took out Aberdeen in the state semifinals, Declo in the championship. Hayden, is there a team that you think could finish a little higher this year in 3A football?
I think everyone's thinking it too, but Priest River is a team that's going to be, they're going to be good this year. What was it? 2 years ago, they could hardly field a team. They have all these juniors that are now seniors, and they have 10, 11, 12 of them, and they're going to make a difference. And you combat that with Grangeville losing 10, 12 seniors too. It's going to be a battle in the Central Idaho League, and Priest River is going to give Grangeville everything they can handle. And it's like a week 3 matchup. And so those two teams are going to be battling for it. And I don't know, Priest River is going to have a good chance.
Yeah, Priest River made the playoffs for the first time in a long time last year. Sawyer Stout set numerous school records in terms of running back production. He's gone, but so many good players do return for the Spartans. Paul, what's a team you think could finish a little higher this year in 3A football?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Priest River as well. Everything, like I said earlier, that the semifinals and even quarterfinals, but especially semifinals on for 3A, 4A, 5A, they're going to look pretty similar. And so I think Priest River could move into that, opening slot, get into the quarterfinals. Depending on the matchup, they might make some noise. But yeah, I think, and how long's it been since anyone on these shows has said, yeah, Priest River, I think they're going to be the team? It's been ever, I think, is the answer to that. I've been doing this a while. I don't remember Priest River being on the tip of anyone's tongue saying, yep, let's watch out for them. So kudos to them.
Priest River went 6-3 last year. And anybody who said Priest River was a playoff team last year is either from Priest River or a liar. So that's how that goes. I will note those top 4 teams last year, Westside, Declo, Aberdeen, Firth, all run the wing tee or some kind of variation of it. Give me the team that still runs the ball, but also can beat you with the pass. Nampa Christian. I think Nampa Christian is ready. Pete Dice is back to quarterback the offense. They return, I think it's 16 or 17 starters. Daniel Jenkins has done a fantastic job with this unit. They played Declo in the state quarterfinals last year, had the lead. Their mantra all off season has been 6 minutes, 40 seconds. They had the lead with 6 minutes and 40 seconds remaining over Declo. The Hornets rallied late and won 19-14. Nampa Christian has been motivated all off season to atone for that. And wouldn't you know it, their first game of the season, guys, it's Nampa Christian at Declo. I mean, they're going to get their shot right away in the season opener. So give me Nampa Christian. I think Ryrie is also very dangerous. And I think Marcy is a team that not a lot of people are talking about. They got Mo Montez back at running back, Bryden McIntyre, who's I think they returned 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. And Marcin was a team that had to go to Ryrie for the playoffs last year and lost by only 2 scores. So those are just some of my thoughts for 3A football. Ryan Skaggs says Priest River could be very dangerous if they get the O-line going. They have some dudes at the skill positions, that's for sure. So let's see what the coaches think this year in 3A football. Our preseason coaches polls. Priest River is the favorite in the Central Idaho League, according to the coaches. Grangeville 2, St. Mary's 3, working on their 3rd coach in 4 seasons now, the Lumberjacks. Nampa Christian, the overwhelming favorite in District 3. And then in that Southeast Idaho Conference, Westside, the number 1 team Aberdeen and Declo appropriately tied for second. And then Sean, how about the nuke? Ryrie gets the preseason nod over Firth and North Fremont.
I was right for once. No, I think Ryrie brings back a lot of people. Their offense was potent last year. They did a lot of things. It's the nuke is always tough. You can't count out some of those teams sometimes. So you got to like Ryrie maybe coming and making some noise in this 3A division.
And by the way, Ryrie also runs like the wing tee or a variation of it. A lot of wing tee in this 3A classification. Hayden, what do you think of these preseason coaches polls?
I think the only team that doesn't run the wing team might be Grangeville. I think they did put some respect on Nampa Christian. I think that's well deserved. Even last year they went up and they played Grangeville in Boise last year, and they took it to Grangeville, and they proved that it's not just they control District 3. They can actually hang with some of the teams up north. And man, I look at teams like Malad and Soda Springs, and I feel bad for them because you're with those 3 teams above them, and it's just a really tough break.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. Paul, what do you think of these preseason coaches polls?
Well, I like them. Before in the others, I was looking at the 1s and 2s and kind of ignoring everything down. And this one, I'm really looking all the way down to 5 and 6. I think it's pretty accurate all the way up and down on all of them. And at first I was looking at the WIC, but Melba, they're young. I don't know. Grangeville lost a bunch, but I said, they're still going to be second. I'd like to see St. Mary's, I'd like to see St. Mary's succeed again. Just they've been through a lot. They're good people up there, and you always root for that. But top to bottom, I'm going to say I think the coaches nailed it as far as preseason predictions go.
Okay. Paul kissing butt here early in the season. Every time I ask him about the preseason coaches polls, I like it.
Hey, I do. I've seen a couple, but I'm not going to call them out. But I like it. I really do. There's and really when you get to the 3As, like I said, this year especially, the goods stay good. The mids might bounce around, and the bads kind of going to stay bad for another year or two. And it's not necessarily their fault. As far as graduation, kids moving on, whatever, it just is what it is this year with all these teams.
Yeah. Here is, guys, the head coach from Marsh Valley, Jared Michelson, in the chat. And he says, look out for Malad in the Southeast. They've got good things working over there. Yeah. They've got Holden Tubbs, Justin Toon kind of leading that defense. They do have to find a way to replace Brady Showell and the production he had at running back. But yeah, Malad was a playoff team last year. We kind of forget about them. And then, like Soda Springs and Salmon are both 5th place teams in these preseason polls, but there's like some elasticity there because, as Joel Richardson, our great East Idaho Prepcast co-host with Sean, notes, Salmon probably still a few years away from the playoff combo, but as they rebuild, they'll win more games than they had the last few years. Paul, I can't remember a time where this has happened, where Keith Director, who was a first-year head coach at North Fremont last year, got them to the quarterfinals and said, you know what, I'm ready for another challenge. Let me go to Salmon, the team that has been at the bottom for several years, and I want to make them into a playoff team. So 2nd team in as many years, and he's got the Savages really buzzing over there.
He does. I was there and I went to Salmon for the first time to do a game against Orofino, and two teams that were, everybody knew were going to struggle that year. And I talked to the coach, and he was adamant that, yep, I'm going to be here for a few years. He was there, got his dad on staff, and they were going to build a program. And then, he got an offer to be an assistant coach at a college, and took off, and that left it open for Drake. And so, you made that post with the coaching changes this year. So that year, a lot of coaching changes. And it makes it tough, especially on the small programs. So, and we talked about it in the beginning of the show, but I'm going to talk about it now. Sean was asking, does it matter when new coaches come in? It doesn't. Well, it does, because those coaches build the program from 5th grade up. And so the kids coming in from JV know exactly what their role is when they get to varsity, because that head coach has been running the entire program, not just the varsity team, for years and years. So you get the new guy in, even if you've got a ton of talent, there's still that getting used to period. So, and a lot of these new coaches in that article you wrote, there's a lot of out-of-state coaches that were hired that really surprised me. There's more than usual, I think, of out-of-state coaches that have been hired this year instead of bringing in from the program or from the town or even cross-state. And there was a few of those, don't get me wrong, but I think there were more out-of-state hires this year than I've seen.
Yeah. One of those out-of-state hires was at Soda Springs there at number 5, Colby Fangman, who has kind of bounced around a lot. He's been in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, Utah. He comes to Soda Springs. Not only is he the head football coach, he's the athletic director, and his son, Alexander Fangman, will be the quarterback. And so, I don't know, maybe Soda Springs, all of a sudden, you get a QB in there that's played at some bigger schools. You've got a coach who, I mean, if you coach in Texas, you have to be pretty legit. So I don't know, maybe Soda Springs is a team that there's a lot of unknown at the 3A level, and that's where the most coaching changes were as well. Back to this list of 3A teams that made the playoffs and teams that missed the playoffs. Sean, give me one of these teams that missed the playoffs last year that could get in.
Well, I'll just piggyback on it. Let's go Soda Springs. Why not? That's a team, in that conference, you win a couple games, maybe you're in. So I'm going to go Soda Springs.
As long as you're respectable and your losses are competitive with Westside, Aberdeen, and Declo all in there, your Max Preps ranking is gonna bring you up for sure. So yeah, I agree. That could be a good one. Hayden, give me a playoff team that missed last year that could get back in this year.
You guys brought up how a lot of coaches from out of state. You also look at the programs like St. Mary's and Orfino and even kind of New Plymouth, where they bring in these relatively young coaches. And hopefully these coaches are here for the long run and they can start to turn a program around. A team that I probably look at right now is St. Mary's. It's going to be a tough task for Hayden Humphrey, but I think he has a good head on his shoulders and he has an opportunity to do that with a group that has really good athletes. He has the Barta brothers back and those guys can play. And, it's the Central Idaho League. Anything can happen in, late October.
That's right. Of those teams that missed the playoffs, 4 of them have hired probably guys that Paul was broadcasting for not that long ago. Orofino brings in Seth Melton, former team captain for Orofino, 2013. We talked about St. Mary's bringing in Hayden Humphrey, who graduated in 2017, I believe. New Plymouth brings in a guy from Weiser, Brody Von Bretthorst, who was a great wrestler and football player for Weiser back in the day. And then Parma turns to one of their own, Randy Riley, who was part of those back-to-back state championship teams at Parma in 2009 and 2010. He's the head wrestling coach. He's also now the football coach. And he says he doesn't just want to improve the football program. He wants to improve all male sports at Parma. They've been down for some time now, maybe a decade. So, yeah, some Idaho guys, Paul, that you probably are familiar with calling their games, and now they're coaching.
Well, Brody, I played against his dad, Bo, who's the AD at Weiser back in the day. He and I talked about that at state baseball. I mean, he looks just like he did back. And when I say play against, I meant he played, and I watched him play my team from the bench. But we were on the court together, which was nice. But yes, I remembered him. He remembered me, and you just see those in that area of the state getting recycled around. So Weiser guy coming in, I could see New Plymouth maybe being one of those teams that missed the playoffs to maybe move up. Maybe. Yeah. It's tough. That whole list of missed playoffs, it's going to be a tough row to hoe for all of them. But New Plymouth or Soda, probably the ones that I would pick if you're asking.
Yeah, I really like Hayden's choice of St. Mary's. I'll go Kellogg too. I'll throw Kellogg a bone here. Porter Lewis and Radley McDonald is a pretty good QB receiver duo, and I could see Kellogg shooting their way to a couple wins in the CIL this year as well. So I don't know. The 3A to me in terms of that's the most unknown going in. So we always this is only the second year we've done Gem State Game Day, but last year we wrapped up our season preview show with just a little fun, quick hitter, all the new coaches, and then the teams that have never won a state championship. And we're just going to go rapid fire here, guys. Here are all of we've talked about some of these guys already. Here are all of the new head coaches this year, only 3 at 6A, half a dozen at 5A, 5 new coaches at 4A, and then 3A is where we saw the most turnover with 8 new head coaches. Paul, give me one rookie head coach. Not all these guys are rookies, but they're rookies at their respective schools. Give me one head coach you're interested in seeing over the season.
Besides Steve Sosnowski?
Yes.
Okay.
Preferably someone we haven't mentioned already. That's good television.
Well,
right?
we've mentioned them all pretty much. Man, this is going to sound homery. Not even homery, but we just talk about them all the time. I'm curious to see the Zane Hobart at Lewiston for obvious reasons. I mean, that's going to be my, I wonder how he's going to do pick for sure.
Okay. Sean?
I'm going to go Keith Director at Salmon. We've had a chance to chat with him in different occasions, and he's really fired up. Moved here and loves the Idaho area, and he's really fired up to help Salmon build a program there. And I would agree with Joel. It might not happen right away, but it'll be fun to watch as the years to come, and even maybe this year they're going to have some big things happen with him at the helm.
Yeah, and for those that don't know his story, he moved to East Idaho last year, Chester, I believe, which is just a dot on the map. But he previously lived in New Orleans, and he ran a private gym down there, and he trained college athletes. He trained NFL players, Major League Baseball players. So he has worked with some of the most high-octane athletes there are. He runs a personal gym in East Idaho and is helping out the local football teams, which I think is great. Hayden, give me one rookie coach you're most excited to see this year.
I'm going to kind of follow the same anecdote that Paul had, but, outside of Zane Hobart, I would probably go with David Joyce out of McCall. I think if you're David, you got to have a little bit of vengeance after what happened in Teton. And I think you got to be, excited about the opportunity with McCall. McCall generally has really good athletes there.
Yeah. And I'll go with, just to throw one off the board here, I'll go Joe Parker at Idaho Falls. He is a science teacher at the high school, hasn't been a part of the football staff the past couple of years. It was time. Idaho Falls needed a clean, a fresh start, as it were. And so Joe Parker has tons of experience in other states like Arizona and Nevada. And I'm very interested to see if he can take Idaho Falls, which is one of the more proud programs in Idaho that just has not been able to find success lately. I'm really excited to see if he can bring that tradition back to Idaho Falls High School.
Well, it's weird how all the good players just happen to live in the Skyline School District instead of Idaho Falls. Weird.
Easy.
All right. Ryan Skaggs
saying something.
Can't sleep on the coach at Gooding, John Helmendollar with the $sign. I like that. That's clever there, Skaggs. And he says, I badly want to see Seth Melton have some success at Orofino. Yeah, I totally agree there for sure. Okay, guys, to wrap up the show, here are the list of schools that have never won a state football championship. Some surprising names on the list, considering the success they've had, like Middleton right away for 6A, but they've never won it. So, Paul, of this list, which team is most likely to end that championship drought this year and finally break through?
Wow. You're going to make...
Why is he going to go first?
If he's not ready.
Does it really matter, Sean? Does it matter? I guess the most likely, if an act of God happens to wipe out a lot of other teams, I'm going to say either American Falls or Aberdeen would have the best shot of doing it.
And ironically, they're 15 miles from each other. I mean, they're right next to each other there in Southeast Idaho. I don't know. I think there's a lot of good teams on the list. Sean, what do you think?
I didn't say there's not a lot of good teams. I'm just saying there's a lot of really, really good teams not on the list.
Well, that's why I wanted to go first, because I liked American Falls and Aberdeen, and when those two teams play each other, it's great. They shoot a lot of cannons and whatnot. I mean, if you've never been to a game in Aberdeen, it's a pretty fun experience. So it's really tough. Barring all kinds of things, Middleton. How about a Middleton team it's kind of surprising that they haven't won. They've bounced back classifications, but stuck in the 6A now. Even though they're a little lower in numbers. I think Middleton might be a team to watch out for.
All right, Hayden, what do you got?
Yeah, I think you go Priest River. It's got to be lightning in a bottle, and you have to get some pretty lucky breaks avoiding any team that plays the wing tee, and that's going to be nearly impossible.
No matter which door you open, it's a wing tee team ready, waiting to attack. I'll go with, Middleton's a good choice. Minico got to the semifinals last year. I'll take Kimberly. Kimberly has been close a lot over the past couple of years. McCray Bruning is back. His top 2 receivers are back. Titus Osterman and Joe Barrett. They've got some good Johnny Millenkamp back to lead the defense at linebacker. So I know it's almost impossible, but Sugar did lose like almost everybody from last year. So give me Kimberly. That's my choice for a team that could maybe end the championship drought.
I'm going to change mine to Kimberly too. Thanks, Brandon.
Okay. Here's Paul just tailgating and sliding in at the end there, coasting off of our hard research. So,
your back has to hurt for carrying me for the last 5-6 years anyway. Might as well keep it going tonight.
That's right. And speaking of all that great research, we are feverishly working on our statewide conference previews for the high school football season. We are about 2/3 of the way through putting the team pages up. By this time next week, every team will be up. Every conference preview will be written, and you can then sound like the most informed football fan in the state of Idaho. So all of those team previews, more and more, are being added every day at IdahoSports.com. So keep checking back to see if your favorite team has made the list. And all those preseason coaches polls we showed you tonight, the rest of the world will get to see them tomorrow on our homepage at IdahoSports.com. Guys, we are 10 days away from the start of the football season, believe it or not. Are you ready, Paul?
No, we are anything but ready. My list of to-dos fills up a legal pad, literally, with room to go. Yeah.
Well, we will talk about some of the best, juiciest week 1 matchups. It's always a smaller schedule to start the season off on next week's edition of Gem State Game Day. Again, it's every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Next week, we'll talk just the week 1 matchups, get you ready for what's going to be a good opening weekend of action across the great state of Idaho. Our good friend Alfred Marshall from Potlatch wants to know, hey, what about the smaller schools? Alfred, this year, Gem State Game Day just for 11-man football. All that great 8-man content still happening on the Idaho 8-man prepcast with myself, Coach Lane Kirkland, Will Henneke, and so many others. That is going to start next week. So we'll start our 8-man prepcast next week, and we'll be talking for a whole hour. And then, let's be honest, an hour plus probably most weeks.
Usually,
about 8-man football. So that's where you can get all that great 8-man content. But Sean, thanks for hopping on and doing this tonight.
You got it. Anytime we can talk about Lane Kirkland, I'm ready to be here.
Hayden, thanks for hopping on.
Absolutely. Glad I could make a last-second appearance. Missed out on the Photoshop.
That's right. And Paul, I would wrap up with a comment to you, but I was taught if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So on that note, we will wrap up the show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Paul Kingbsury, Sean Kane, and Hayden Muhlencott, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning in to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.